Hello and welcome to this edition of Popexo Speak Easy. We have a very special guest with us. I am Priyanka Gill. I'm the founder and CEO of Popexo, and it is my absolute pleasure to be hosting Popexo Speak Easy today. Hey, hi guys. Hey
Hi,
Ankur.
Priyanka.
Oh my God, so good to see you.
Likewise, it's been a while.
Since
How are you doing?
I'm really well and super excited to be doing this. You were
Same
our
here.
so you actually are our first ever male guest on Popexo Speak Easy.
When I went through the list, I was like, is that true? Could that be possibly true? And I didn't want to jinx it by calling that out. So no pressure now. Suddenly you announced that, and I'm like, woof.
No, absolutely.
The
We decided to diversify and then we made a list and you were topping that list. So it had to be you. So good to see you.
It's an
And
honor. Thank you so much.
yeah, and our audience actually needs no introduction to you. And everyone's been really excited ever since we announced that we're going live with you. But I will anyway try and attempt that. So, guys, I've known Ankur for a really long while, it seems. I've been following his journey with much interest. And I have some interesting points that when the team pulled out and that I know. So, at the age of 24, Ankur dropped out of his physics PhD in the US and he came back to India. I imagine much to the dismay of the parents. He kind of exited nearby and now he's become this rather phenomenal mentor, public speaker, angel investor. You wear so many hats, Ankur. How do you do it? That's my first question to you. But before that, I would love to kind of hear you tell your story in a few words, just so we can get a flavor of how you see yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, firstly, for having me, Priyanka. And I've been a very keen admirer of the work that you've done. And as is with entrepreneurship, it's never easy. You make it look really easy. So I'm sure that there's a lot goes behind the scenes. And thanks for being that inspiration. I have I've had such a wonderful journey. It's hard to describe it in a few words, but if I were to, I've essentially realized very early on when I had a concrete plan on what I wanted to do in life that didn't serve me well, and I had my plans completely devastated, destroyed by what life had planned for me. And when I came back from the US after dropping out of my PhD, which is what I wanted to do for the longest time I knew, I realized that there were two ways of living life. One was if plan A didn't work, then plan B didn't work, plan C, and so on and so forth, instead of setting deadlines and milestones. And here I am as a result of taking those rather crazy decisions at those point of time and thoroughly enjoying myself as a content creator, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a guide and investor. And I love all the hats that I wear.
Amazing. So I mean, it's it's actually it feels like a very natural story now that we hear it. But once you kind of your entrepreneur journey kind of has taken you to this part where you're this kind of super advisor to so many people. So why didn't you enter into a second or a third venture as it would have been for you? And why did you decide to kind of not do that and kind of join the content creator path?
So I've been an entrepreneur now for 12 plus years, and I've genuinely loved the journey. I'm sure you will be able to relate to it a lot, where massive highs, massive lows, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of success that is socially delivered upon you as just crowd speak, if you will. And after playing that role, I just wanted to play another one. I turned 40 last year. So it felt like the right moment where I could give the past decade a break and to think of what would be the next one. And the role that I wanted to play, which when I reflected upon, I realized I thoroughly enjoy, is that of a teacher. I have always loved teaching and I've played that role in multiple shapes and forms, whether it was actually as a teacher or as a CEO and a founder, where you are mentoring and guiding your team to a certain outcome. And the role that you see me playing, whether it's a content creator or an educator or even a mentor or an advisor, in some way just manifests that teaching that I wanted to pursue. So I want to devote myself to teaching for this decade of my life. And I am fairly certain that without putting any pressure or any goal and any target, it will eventually result into my next gig, whatever that may be. And as I said, there is no pressure. So it may be next year, it may be after 3 years, and I'm totally okay with that. But I think the entrepreneur in me is not going to die. It's just going to manifest itself in some other avatar.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I have 100%. I can guarantee that actually. So that I'm sure that's going to happen. So the other interesting thing that I know about you is that you wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day. You just make us all look bad, basically, right? But you wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day, right?
Those who feel like, oh wow, this is so amazing. It took me. So I used to usually get up at around 8:30, and it took me 3 years to get from 8:30 to 4:30. And that I think is part of the grind where people who would want to wake up early will be like, oh, let's just set up the alarm for 4:30 and get up at 4:30. You may be able to do that 2 days or 2 weeks, but then after that, your body will just shout back at you and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you'll be fighting your own will and your own motivation. So I realized that waking up early gives me a lot of freedom and control over my time, which is why I love that. So for the first few hours of my day, it's just me time. I get up, I meditate, I work out, which I have realized over the last several years that I've been following this routine. So once I start my day at 9:30, frankly, very few things can decenter me because I've centered myself already. So I will, of course, go to my ups and downs. I will have an unstructured day if I didn't plan it. I will have things that will throw me off guard. But very rarely will things come and disturb me so much because I've rooted myself in a way that even if I'm swaying due to the strong winds, the roots are just very strong and I will stay intact when the winds are over.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, I thought I was doing a great job. 5:30, 6 o'clock was my time, and I think 4:30 is the new goal. So, yeah, I don't think my family's going to be very happy about that one, but there you go. What time do you actually go to bed then?
Yeah, so that's an important question because most people are like, hey, waking up early is about waking up early. Waking up early is about sleeping on time. And I go to bed between 9 and 9:30. And that does mean that I have to say no to a lot of things that most people will say yes to or would want to say yes to. So no social gatherings in the evening, very few family events. Most of them are no, very few family friend dinners, no weddings, nothing like that. 9:30, kids are by 8:30. So our lights are off by 9 and we're in our bed and we use the half an hour
does
to
she
just
wake up at 4:30 as well?
So she wakes up at about 4:35,
Wow.
4:45. Yeah.
Amazing.
She goes to tennis. She plays tennis at 5:30 in the morning. I go at 6:30. So yeah, it's an early morning.
Hugely inspiring. So yeah, I like this idea of having that time in the morning to do what you're, as long as you use it productively, I guess, right? You're not just kind of whiling away your time, waking up at 4:30 and spending it on Instagram, which I might do. So just making sure that you have a plan for that time.
That is important. That is important.
Amazing. So cool. Now let's just kind of change a little bit of tack, right? And I want to actually kind of, again, just picking up some famous kind of tidbits of you. Let's talk about your failure resume. And that actually went viral in a great way. And this idea, and as entrepreneurs, this imposter syndrome, as you said, is completely real, right? And I face it, I feel it, and I know pretty much every entrepreneur I speak to will admit to it if they're being candid about it as well, right?
Yeah.
And this idea of performing on demand, succeeding on demand, keeping that face up, that is the job, literally, right? So let's talk a little bit about this idea of admitting failure and what it does to you once you've done it publicly.
It suddenly leaves you with such power within that very few people can now touch you and affect you because there's nothing that they can touch you on. Like there's nothing that they have against you that you don't know for already. And the genesis of this was a professor in New York University called Johannes Hasshofer. And he, as part of his academic journey, realized that while he is doing really well and everything, his resume is just like this chest thumping document, which is most of us. We're like, oh, we've done this and we've done that and we've worked in this company and we've risen so fast and so on and so forth. But we very rarely get to see what happened behind the scenes that led you to that outcome. And that would inevitably be a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures. We never speak about those. So he had this idea of what if there was a failure resume? And I was genuinely inspired by that. I looked around if anyone had done it in the world, and I didn't see anyone except for him. So I thought, why don't I do that at my end? And this was about, I think, 2016 or 17. And that went really viral in the sense that it was received well. And I didn't think people would think much about it. But the fascinating thing was so many people wrote in saying that this gave us hope. which was very counterintuitive because failure giving you hope seems like the last thing that would happen. But they were like, no, when we look at you, we look at someone immensely successful and we almost are led to believe that you've done nothing wrong in life. And now we know that there have been a series of clusterfucks that you've been through. And all of those just make us sound like our life is also normal. And then when I turned 40 last year, I thought that this was a good time for me to update because there have been series of failures after that as well. And I did that, and that was also received well. And as I said, it just gives you immense power because once you know yourself, nobody can touch you, nobody can destroy you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see that, right? Because this facade that you have to maintain drains so much energy all the time.
Frankly, my follower count is the last thing that bothers me because I know that life is a lot bigger. I would much rather any day spend my time agonizing over how my kid's future will turn out to be or what I want to do with my partner than to think of whether I've added that one more subscriber somewhere. It's just this natural game. And that to me is fascinating because in some way, this is the best testimony to the habits process of living life. I don't follow any goal, any target. Neither does my team have any goal or a target. We're all input. These many videos a week, these many content pieces a week. We just do it clinically, irrespective of how it's being received. We hear feedback, we improvise, and we go out better and better so that we're helping people. But we don't care about what the follower count or the engagement is post that, as long as we are being true to ourselves and to everyone who's listening in. And if that happens, that's great. And it helps that I don't have a business to run out of it. It helps that this is not what I think is the reason why my financial outcome in life will be immensely different from what I had imagined it to be. This is something that is authentically me, so I don't have to pretend to be someone else. And I frankly don't care how it turns out.
And no investors, right?
No, big one. And you and I can high five on that. And that is a big journey. Like it's something that, of course, we can speak about separately as well. But after having run a venture funded company for close to 10 years, and now you're running a bootstrap venture where it is a venture of sorts where you're trying to create something, but there is no pressure of time, there is no pressure of money. You have to be profitable from day one and you have to make that work. It is a very, very, very different game. And I'm loving that game because it's slow, it's deliberate, it gives you the chance to fail, but recover from that. And as you said, there is no external pressure of exiting, making it work at a certain timeline.
For me, I think if I had to dream up my nightmare, right, it would be like MIS and board meetings, just preparing for that. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad, like, even now with my glam, like, I literally, that is not my problem. So, I mean, that's the thing. I wake up in the morning and I say thank you and I'm grateful for that. So, I completely and utterly hear you on that one. But you talk often about this idea of no goals, right? What does that mean for you, actually? I mean, I'm finding it very hard to understand and relate to because I feel I lead a decently goal-driven life. So, I mean, and I imagine you were as well, because I remember you and I talking about goals and all of that, and that wasn't that long ago. So how did you kind of go from that to this no goal mindset?
Yeah, I think it's just the realization that when we set a goal or a target, we frankly don't have any basis for it. At least I didn't for the longest time. So if I say, oh, I want to be X net worth by this time, or I want to have my company reach this value by X time, it's just a desire. It's not something that is founded on something concrete. And if it's a desire, the challenge was if I hit it, I felt like, oh my God, I'm the best thing ever to have happened to myself. And if I didn't hit it, I was like, oh my God, I'm the worst loser on earth, where everyone else is killing it and hitting their targets and I'm not. I've spoken about Amazon. But the one thing that was fascinating was the more and more I spoke with people from Amazon, especially at the senior level, I was just blown away by the fact that none of them ever spoke about the output. They were just centered on the input. They were just constantly about these many new products added, these many new visitors to the app, these many downloads, this is the conversion rate, and so on and so forth. None of them were talking about GMV and gross margin and gross revenue and profit. And at that stage and at that level, to not be output driven and to just be input driven is quite admirable. And I began to just see how could that manifest in my own life. And I realized, dude, you've been seeing this all through, like for the last 20 years. Was there anything that has happened to you that you could have predicted before it happened to you? And the answer is no. None of what I did, dropping out, coming back, my MBA, my consulting, dropping out of that, Groupon nearby, quitting nearby, none of that was planned. None of that could have been predicted. So who am I kidding by thinking that, oh, I can set a goal or a target in my life? I think organizations, groups, communities, they need goals and targets because it brings everyone together and aligns them. But I feel at an individual level, if you were to marry yourself into the right habits and just devote yourself to the input of, I'm going to read every day. I'm going to meet someone new every week. I am going to write every day. I'm going to create content every week. I'm going to mentor someone that helps me. I'm going to be investing my money irrespective of whether the market is up or down on this day every month, so on and so forth. It just compounds, and results in goals or targets that you could not have imagined for yourself.
Yeah, so you actually just took my second question away, which was on what are your habits that you talk about. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my favorite word is compounding, right? And it's consistency and compounding. So if you kind of can get those two going for you, I think everything else kind of falls. I read this fascinating thing today about your six-pack journey and how you lost an enormous amount of weight. And I mean, this is for all us out there, all us girls and ladies out there, where we're constantly obsessing about kind of getting and dropping weight. I have to ask you about that. You will have to now talk about that.
So setting aside the vanity of six pack, because that wasn't the larger thing. The larger thing was,
I saw the photo, man. Vanity is like out there and center. So.
Oh God, I love, and that's the thing. 20 years back, if I was like, do you ever imagine yourself being bare chested and clicking yourself and putting up on social media? No way. And so I surprised myself. I was like, I don't know what's hidden inside of me and in what ways. But the story is quite fascinating, and I've spoken about it in the latest podcast episode as well that I did. I was diagnosed with something because of which I had to go for a surgery on my hip bone, and because of that, I was on bed rest for 3 months. I had to use crutches for about 5 months, so it was a long recovery period, and I couldn't walk. Basically, my doctor, I remember him writing on the prescription, stop walking, because he didn't want to just go beyond the damage that had already been done. So I was on one of the flights just contemplating. I was like, hey, if life asked me to stop walking, what would be a great way to tell life that this chapter of my life is over? And I said, let me run. And in that moment, I mentally decided to run for the Airtel half marathon that happens in Delhi every year. And I prepared for that. And on the day of the marathon, which is a 21-kilometer marathon, I had never ran 21 kilometers. So even in my practice, the maximum that I had gone was 14 kilometers. And I completed the marathon. And instead of feeling happy, I felt shitty because I was like, I cheated this. Like I hadn't ever done this. And I just showed up one fine day and ran the 21 kilometers, almost as if anybody could have done it. So then I asked myself, what's the one thing that I could sign up for, which I can't cheat my way through? I have to commit to a certain discipline, a certain way of living life. It may mean a completely different way of living life. And the answer that I found at that point of time was six-pack abs. So I was like, sure, let's just do that. And at the age of 33, I started working towards getting six-pack abs. And a lot of my friends were like, dude, you're onto something. Like, who are you dating and having an affair with? Because that's the only reason that would explain a married guy with a child to be getting six-pack abs. Like, no, I cannot explain it to you, but that's the maverick I am. And I changed my diet, I changed everything. And that was the beauty of it. Like, this was a journey which I had to commit to every single day of my life. I couldn't cheat my way through one day just wishing that I got six packs. And I cannot even begin to tell you, Priyanka, I go on record saying I got a second life because of that disease. And it's unfortunate because it took a disease for me to realize that I needed to take care of my body. I needed to take care of my health. I needed to take care of my mental and physical fitness. And I'm so glad that I did that, but it shouldn't take this jolt and shock for all of us to recognize that.
What is the most unpopular opinion on entrepreneurship that you have?
That entrepreneurship is a great way. Well, a lot of people have this notion that entrepreneurship is a great way of making money. And I feel that entrepreneurship is one of the worst ways of making money. You have better odds of making money if you're a professional working your way through the corporate ladder and being diligent than signing up for this very random, please do not start up because you want to make more money. because you hate your current life, or because everyone else is starting up. All three are wrong reasons for starting up.
And what are the right reasons for starting up?
That you are genuinely driven by an idea or a problem that you want to solve for, and you are at that state where you couldn't care whether the result or the outcome is a success, socially desirable or defined or not. You're just happy that you went through that journey, and you couldn't trade that for anything else.
Yeah, so I'm an accidental entrepreneur, right? I don't think I was that planned when I got, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world in hindsight. But yeah, I resonate with that. The topic of the speakeasy was the secret of success. I think we've gone about that in a fairly roundabout way. Consistency, habits, and compounding those is where I'm getting to. Waking up at 4:30 a.m., which is not going to happen for me. But again, I'm just putting it out there that there are mad people like Ankur Warikoo who do that every single day, and it works for him, which is great. Going to bed at 9:30 p.m. again, like kudos to you. I'm so lucky you are that your wife agrees. Otherwise, that would have been a disaster, right? But what else would you like to add? What is the secret to success for you?
I feel that the biggest secret of success, which is also the hardest thing, Priyanka, is to realize that most of what we call success is defined by the world and not by us. 25 में शादी, 28 में बच्चे, 30 में घर, 35 में ये. It's just this set notion of success that we are all drugged into believing is the only definition of success. And I feel that the biggest secret of success is that success is deeply personal. Everyone ought to have their own definition of success. That may mean, and that most likely will mean, that you will go against what the world has defined for you, you are close to or you fancy, but it will take a lot of grit and a lot of determination for you to define success your way. So the only way that you can be on that journey, what the world expects from me, but what does it truly mean from me? That will automatically give you also a definition of failure for yourself. And these two definitions combined is just the life you want to live. We, as it is, born on this planet, at least I believe that we're born on this planet with no purpose attached. There's no agenda that we're serving. There's no entity that we are pleasing. So we're just here to go through that grind. And the worst thing that we can do is go through the grind in a way that we never feel in control because of what the world has told us we should be doing.
And of everything you've said today, that's probably the hardest thing to do, right? That this idea of silence with yourself and sitting down and trying to understand yourself, Pandora's box, right? So I think that is superbly hard. And yeah, so I mean, I actually would agree with you on that. But then let's a little bit about, financial success, money, making money, more money. You of course have given up a lot of delta that you would have had you would have funded your next venture in a heartbeat. It would have been that kind of $15-20 million first Series A. It would have been all of that for sure, right? But you gave up all of that, and now you're kind of doing something that you're more fulfilled by, but yes, it's financially maybe less. So yes, does that keep you up ever?
No, not at all. Frankly, no. And that I think is a combination of being with a partner who sees the world the same way that we both do, and also realizing that we're just so privileged to begin with already, that we're sitting on opportunities that most people will not get to see for even a second of their lives. But the worst case scenario for us is the best case scenario for so many people. And suddenly that just at least it uplifts me. So I know that we're just so lucky to have a house and to have help and to have everything, kids going to a great school and so on. Even if all of this were to go away, I think we'll still be happy. Like even if we were to move to a mountain village and put our kids into a government school or homeschool and we are farming our way through, I think we'll still be happy. And I love that.
Amazing. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah, and I can almost imagine you doing that. Don't do that too soon because you really enjoy what you're doing. And you realize you talk in sound bites, by the way, and very insightful sound bites, but you do talk in great sound bites now, which is amazing. But I mean, as a last question, what would you like to, beyond what you've already said, what would you like to add? And kind of this idea of defining your own success, leading your life on your own terms, not being pressurized by what the world says. Like, how do you do it? Like, some practical tips on actually how to achieve that.
Yeah. So especially for people in their 20s, because that's the audience that I speak to quite often. A lot of people in the world in general will tell you that 20s is a decade for you to settle. like settle into everything. Finish your education, settle. Get married, settle. Find that house, that car, settle. Get kids, settle. And I have a counter opinion that a practical way of living the 20s, especially in today's world where the world is just so rapidly changing, is to spend your decade exploring. And exploring does not mean switching jobs and moving from one job to another. It's devoting yourself into finding what is it that you truly like and you're good at outside of what gives you financial stability. So a practical way that I do speak about often, because I did that personally, is have a job, but don't make that job your life. Do your best that you have to, be diligent, but then spend your nights and weekends on these 1 month exploration trips. And this 1 month exploration trip starts with you picking up, say, an online course about a new thing that you want to do. Like, so Priyanka wants to figure what is it to become, I don't know, a DJ. So she picks up this course around DJing.
Amazing. So I think the world of academia is their loss has been all our gain. And as always, it's been a pleasure, Ankur. I think we should do this again. I've really, really enjoyed this. And I think I've ended up motivating myself by doing this speaking. So I need to kind of talk to more inspiring people like you. Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. And I hope our audience has enjoyed it. This will be saved. We'll put it up. You'll see excerpts from this. You'll see it all over. So just a huge thank you, Ankur. And thanks to the team for organizing. Bye.
Thank you so much.